If you didn't know any better, you'd assume that all of Nintendo 64's most popular games were about Mario. So how did a 1998 platform game about a fumbling bear and a wisecracking bird taking on a grumpy witch compete with Super Mario 64? And better yet, why is it hailed as one of the greatest games ever? So let's start with the cast. We've got Banjo the Bear, Kazooie the Red-Crested Breagle, Gruntilda the Witch, Bottles, Tooty, Klungo, and Mumbo Jumbo. For those who missed the era of the N64, unless you went back and emulated it, you might not have heard of Banjo-Kazooie until it was re-released on Nintendo Switch, when it made its long-awaited appearance in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. The story commences when Gruntilda, desperate for a glow-up, kidnaps Tooty about 20 seconds into the first cutscene, and Banjo and Kazooie were caught napping. Banjo and Kazooie immediately begin their quest to track down Tooty, which involves traversing 9 different worlds, all while collecting feathers, eggs, notes, jingos, and most importantly, jiggies. You see, each world has 10 jiggies inside, as well as one created by a witch switch in each level that you can ground pound to unlock in the overworld. So what the fuck is the... The overworld in Banjo-Kazooie essentially connects the various levels and is a hub for exploration. Otherwise known as Grunty's Airbnb, it's interconnected and convoluted. The concept is beautiful in theory. You have to fill in the puzzles with the jiggies you find, and then a door will open somewhere else in the overworld, which is the entrance to that level. But there's a reason I said in theory. I could do a full-length video essay just on how to navigate this layer. Thankfully, it's usually pretty intuitive, but feel no shame if you need to look up how to find the last few puzzles. The level design in Banjo-Kazooie is inherently quite charming. Each world takes you into a new and often unique theme for its time. The distinctive themes range from Gobi's Valley Desert, Freezeezy's Peaks, Winter Wonderland, and many more. Each level revolves around the player finding the notes and the jiggies to continue progressing through Grunty's Airbnb. Some of the jiggies are in the open, but in difficult spots to find. Most are obtained through puzzles, which range from bashing turtles at singing school, cleaning a mechanical shark, and catapulting yourself into a twice-divorced polar bear whose 3 kids are stuck at home. Each level implores you to explore, and discover each of the little secrets woven into the environment. Whilst the early levels introduce you to the wider range of the game's mechanics, they increasingly challenge you to pull different moves out of your arsenal. Specifically, each level integrates different transformations and new moves into their puzzles, adding to the depth and variety of each level, ensuring that every world feels distinct and offers unique challenges. But what makes you want to stay? Are you tired of playing games that have mountains of dialogue? Look no further than Banjo-Kazooie, where the characters speak in mumble. Each character has their own distinct personality traits. Grundy's a slam poet who rhymes every sentence. Kazooie and Bottles can't help but permanently insult each other, and Mumbo Jumbo doesn't care about anything. However, the NPCs are what truly gives the game its charm. Their distinctive designs, expressive animation, and witty dialogue contribute to the core of the game's fun. It keeps the experience lighthearted despite the troubling puzzles. It continues to add depth to the experience. The dynamics between every character are surely one of the reasons why the game endures the sands of time. As mentioned, you can learn certain moves and abilities throughout the first few levels. While some are more used than others, this will be the only way you traverse the worlds, they all have their own merit. The game consists of all the tricks we know: precise timing, skillful maneuvering, and pattern recognition. All of the moves feel completely intuitive, and you'll often find the best way to tackle any situation if you've got your thinking cap on. But for a game made in 1998, being able to balance such a large arsenal of moves intuitively so that the user can often find and pick which one is most viable for an incredibly huge amount of puzzles is no easy feat. How Rare managed to achieve such a unique balance between accessibility for newcomers and depth for experienced players is above and beyond any expectations I had before playing the game. All that being said, it was a game made in 1998, and it is not without flaw. The flying mechanic isn't actually that bad, but you eventually learn how to do a big bomb, and holy hell is this thing difficult to aim. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like Banjo and Kazooie have both finished off a bottle of bourbon each when trying to aim this thing. A slight misinput and you're about to impersonate a skydiver without a parachute. The real issue is swimming. According to Google, brown bears are great swimmers, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Imagine Minecraft swimming before the ocean update, and then multiply that by a bazillion. Your turning circle is that of a semi-trailer truck. If you only had to swim to reach certain areas, it would be okay. But when swimming is primarily incorporated in multiple levels, you start to lose your sanity. The music perfectly captures the game's whimsical and adventurous atmosphere. Every level and room has its own catchy melody, a particular theme that takes inspiration from the game's core themes. Grunty's Airbnb has an air of spookiness about it. Treasure Trove Cove is a tropical beach party, and Rusty Bucket Bay incorporates jazzy instruments as well as horns and whistles to simulate the dock's vibes. What's more, the music dynamically alters to capture the moment. Tempo and intensity can increase during boss battles and action sequences, creating a whole new atmosphere. Each character has their own personal music motif, each move a different tune, each item a new jingle. These aren't unfamiliar elements in the game, but the way in which they contribute to the joy and the charm of the game is often understated. The soundtrack continues to enamor me, despite often accompanying moments of rage where I continue to fail the same puzzle whilst the whimsical melodies float on around me. But I still love it. Banjo-Kazooie's graphics, considering its 1998 release for the N64, were impressive and showcased the technical capabilities of the console at the time. While the graphics may appear dated by today's standards, they were visually appealing and contributed to the game's colourful and whimsical atmosphere. However, the art direction and attention to detail in the game's graphics continue to be appreciated and remembered fondly by fans. You know what isn't remembered fondly by fans? The camera. See, when you start to play the game, you'll very quickly come to understand that it's an inverted camera, meaning right is left and left is right on the joystick. It's not fluid, it's incremental movements. So if you want it exactly in one spot and it doesn't line up with the movements, you're in big trouble. Banjo-Kazooie had a lasting impact on the gaming industry on its release. It was met with critical acclaim and was one of the best-selling N64 games of all time. It was one of the first great 3D platforming games that sparked inspiration for future games in the same genre. But for me, it's the game's characters and fun nature which have clearly captured the hearts of those who were able to play the game when it was released, or those who saw that they got added to Super Smash Bros. And wanted to know what the hype was all about. I personally had tried playing the game when I was incredibly young on my cousin's N64, and I couldn't get past the third level. The game spooked me, and was too difficult compared to Mario Kart. A few months ago, I was inspired to run it back, and I finally beat the game that had stumped me in my youth. So from a modern perspective, why should you give it a crack, when games like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom have just been released, and are more or less the same genre? It's the game's charm. I've made reference to it a few times already. The music, level design, gameplay, and characters all lend themselves to the hilarious and sometimes outright goofy story. It's incredibly unique in the sense that it feels like some guys brainstormed the dumbest names and characters they could, gave them satirical dialogue, and managed to make one of the greatest games of all time. And yet you get sucked into the thrill of hunting down the Jiggies, finding the Jingos, and chasing down Gruntilda. If you have concerns over the graphics or the camera, I absolutely advise you to just give it a shot. If it's not your thing, that's totally fine. But why not get up an emulator or buy it on the Nintendo store and take a step back into history? Because that's what the game is, a little piece of history that will be revered by some, and myself, as one of the greatest games of its time, and probably forevermore.